Don't do that. What, you say? Well, we got to find out. Avoid these mistakes when you are in Australia for 2022. This is from a channel called Living Simply Australia. Check them out. There'll be a link in the description down below, okay? And this comes to us from a Discord suggestion from David J. So I appreciate this. You know, traveling abroad is just an interesting thing, right? It's an amazing thing. But it also can be a little freaky just because you're going somewhere totally different. And you don't want to do the wrong thing on accident. You don't want to offend people. You don't want to do something wrong. So let's learn a little bit how to avoid these mistakes.
Okay, let's talk about mistakes or things that you shouldn't really do when you're here in Australia.
Awesome.
Let's get started.
Let's hear it.
Disclaimer, this is based on my experience. If you have a different experience, leave a comment below and let us know if in your country all these things are appropriate or not. The first thing to avoid doing when you're here in Australia is to hug or kiss people when you just met them. Australians really value their personal space and their privacy. They like to keep a bit of physical distance. In my case, in my culture, we tend to say hi with a kiss on the cheek, but yeah, not here in Australia.
Gotcha.
Usually you shake people's hands or you just say, hi, how you going? And that's it. If you already know them, usually you just give them a hug.
Okay, so that one, first off, that one is almost spot on here with generally accepted for that topic here in the United States. So that's pretty much identical. People have a personal bubble here. They like their space for the most part. And that one would be easy to follow. Not overly touching and not standing, right in someone's face. That'd be easy. That'd be easy. That's how it is here too. Interesting.
Another thing that you should avoid doing when you're here in Australia is not looking people in the eye. When you're talking to an Australian or someone who lives here, you make direct eye contact to demonstrate that you're actively listening to them and that you're engaged in the conversation. If you're looking other way, they might think that you just are not listening or you don't care about what they're saying.
Okay, number 2, spot on. Spot on with the US, so that would be easy to follow. Gotcha.
Another thing that you shouldn't do when you're here in Australia is playing music out loud in public spaces, especially at the beach or when you go to a campsite or when you're...
Now, I always follow this and don't do that to others. But yeah, unfortunately, you run into this a lot. It is generally accepted here that you shouldn't do that as well. But a lot of people don't care, right? They're just kind of inconsiderate and do that. So unfortunately, you do run into that a lot. And before we go on, yeah, a lot of these might be similar, but... it doesn't necessarily mean that, the U.S. and Australia are just exactly alike. That's not what it means. It means a lot of these might not be exclusive to Australia or whatever. They're more just common sense, like, don't play loud music in a public space where people might want to, some peace and quiet or not just to be hearing something loud like that, like your music. They want to be out in nature and not hear that kind of thing. Trying to get away from that.
People are going to nature, to the beach, to relax, to listen to the birds, and they don't want someone playing music out loud. Always wear your earphones and everything will be fine. Something that you should avoid in Australia is not being direct. If you have a question, just ask. Of course, always be polite and respectful, but you should always ask if you have a question because this shows, especially at work, this shows that you are engaged.
I believe that. Yep. That's a good
Another
one.
thing that you should avoid when you're here in Australia is gossiping. It's about someone else's appearance, especially at work. It's not nice. It creates a lot of distrust, and you can actually get fired if someone finds your comments to be offensive or racist. So you have to be very, very careful with that.
That makes sense.
Another thing that you should avoid is not responding to invitations. You always have to RSVP. That is, you always have to reply to an invitation, whether it is for yes or for no. Don't let them hanging or guessing whether you're going to.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, a lot of people need to work on that in the US too. I feel like I'm the type of person, if I invite you to something, I'm not offended at all if you say no or you can't go. Like, I just want to know, so I know who's going and who's not. People won't be mad usually if you say no. Just say no. Not saying anything just creates like...
To be able to make it or not. And speaking of invitations, something that you should avoid is not bringing something to a party. Even if the person tells you to not bring anything, at least bring a box of chocolates or a wine, but never come empty-handed. Always bring something with you.
That's a good
Australians
train of
lack
thought.
punctuality. As I said in all of my other videos, Australians will get offended if you are late. And not only
Oh, darn it. Look, I'm actually, if it's just me and I'm in full control, I take pride in not being late places, so that is the truth. But yeah, this one's hard, especially in America. This one maybe is a little different. Now, I can't speak for everyone. And of course, everyone here still knows, like, you shouldn't be late. That is, not proper, right? But I feel like these days, a lot of people, almost everyone I know, is late to things left and right.
Australians, people from other cultures who live here as well, just be respectful of people's time.
Okay, gotcha.
Another thing that you should avoid is to showing up to someone's house unannounced. Australians like to make appointments for a lot of things. I'm not
Gotcha.
going to generalize here because this doesn't apply to all Australians, especially when you're younger or if you live in a regional area or in a little town. It's more
Yeah, I can tell from what I've heard from people, a lot of, and they might be younger, I'm not sure, but a lot of Australians do seem very, very friendly and very open arms, like, come see me anytime, which I totally appreciate that. I think that's awesome. But yeah, I still feel like the way I'm programmed, it's better to at least have some sort of a loose plan. As even if people seem friendly and down for anything, I do think it's still better to err on the side of caution and not show up a lot of places unannounced.
common to pop up unannounced, but in big cities or big communities, usually you just organize with your mates to see them at a specific time, because otherwise you might just rock up there, there might not be anyone, and also it's a waste of time for you. So yeah. Another thing that you should avoid is talking about politics or religion. Again, though, I'm not going to generalize, and this doesn't apply to all Australians. But in general, you should be careful when talking about politics or your opinions about religion. As someone,
I totally agree. I think people should think how they want, as long as they think for themselves and make decisions about things. That's fine. That's them. People should be allowed to interact with others and be courteous, be friendly to all people, regardless of their background.
said in one of my videos, if you're with your friends, you might have a bit more trust with them to talk about these things, but usually you can sense whether everyone feels comfortable or not. So you have to test the waters. Yeah, it's something that, for example, in my culture, we debate a lot about that over the table with friends, with family. We don't really mind. We have very heated debates as well.
Okay.
But here I find that it's not the case so much. In general, be sensitive. Another thing that you should avoid, especially if you're working, is speaking in a language that people around you can't understand. If you're having lunch with your colleagues and one of your colleagues is from your same country, for example, you both speak Spanish, and you speak in Spanish but no one else can understand, you should switch to English, just out of respect for the other people who are around you.
See, now this is the kind of thing I am interested in hearing, and this is totally fine that it's different. But this is different because here in America, in the United States, there are people that speak a lot of different languages. Obviously, Spanish is literally our second language here, so it's very common to hear it regardless of who's in the room. But even other languages, too. I mean, obviously, the U.S. has a lot of different people from different backgrounds. So you do hear a lot of different languages in the store, in the workplace, wherever. And I feel like it's more... more common here, I guess. Luckily, this wouldn't be hard for me because I speak English, and I wouldn't be speaking a different language to someone in a room full of Aussies. That wouldn't happen. But yeah, it's interesting to hear how different countries view certain.
You could be making fun of them,
things.
but they've no idea. Yeah. Another thing that you should avoid when you're here in Australia is littering.
Yes.
And I know that I'm going to get a lot of comments from people saying, "Oh, why are you saying that? It's obvious." And I'm sorry, but it's not obvious. There are many people who litter a lot, and that's something that first you can get.
Yeah, I am appalled. I think all of us can speak for this. I'm appalled how some people write in an intersection in traffic or, right on the sidewalk, like this little video clip just showed, like someone will just throw trash on the ground. And it blows my mind. Like what on earth are you doing? Don't
big
do it.
fines for that, or you're
Don't
going
be
to
lazy.
get someone telling you, hey,
That's
don't
the
litter,
ultimate
and it's going to be
laziness.
very
Come on.
humiliating. And yeah, we need to take care of our nature, our parks. If you go camping, if you go hiking, grab a rubbish bag, put all your waste there and just take it back home. Because I've been to, for example, the Grampians National Park, and
That's
sometimes you do
gorgeous.
see a lot of
Wow.
rubbish, especially during public holidays. And really, I just don't understand why. But yeah, that's something that, yeah, don't litter.
Yeah, and it's one thing in cities, but it's the ultimate tragedy. Like she said, when you're out in a national park or something, like in nature, you're taking away the experience. It's supposed to be pure, protected land. Why are you going to such a beautiful place and littering? Like, what the hell?
Not picking up your dog's poop. Really, I can't believe that I'm saying this, but I've lived in a country where this is not usual, and people just leave their dog's waste there on the street, and then I walk and I step on it and I'm like,
no.
why? So yeah, and also you can get big fines as well. I think up to $200 for not picking up your dog's
I believe
poop.
you can get
Just
fined
saying.
here in the United States too for that.
And speaking of fines, another thing that you should avoid is not paying for public transport. I've seen many cases where people come and then because you're on the tram, no one really sees you, so they don't pay, they don't touch on or touch off. But there are many inspectors, especially in big cities. You'll see lots of inspectors hopping on the train or hopping on the tram and checking whether you paid or not. And they can charge you around $75 or $100 for not paying. So that's the fine.
Wow. That's fair though.
And another thing relating
Totally.
to fines is that if you're in public transport, don't put your feet on the seats. I was with a friend. She had come on the work and holiday visa, and we were on the train, and she put her feet on the seat just unconsciously. She was tired, and and an inspector came and they said, "This is a $100 fine." And she was like, "What?" "Yes, you're putting your feet on the seat." And they asked her for her passport and everything, and my friend couldn't even speak English, and she was like, "I'm sorry, I don't understand." And then they were a bit compassionate and they let her go, but they gave her a warning. So yeah, they're very, very strict.
That's good to hear that they gave her a warning, because that would be pretty harsh. Agreed that people shouldn't put their feet on the seats, even if you're tired and stuff. I get it, the urge to do it. You might even do it subconsciously on accident, but I get that they have to enforce it, and I do agree with that. But yeah, I'm glad they let her off with a warning in that scenario, because that'd be kind of mean.
Another thing that you should avoid is haggling. In many cultures, you're always negotiating to get a bargain, but not in Australia. You just pay the price that they give you, and that's it. But you don't.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that is different. See, this is why this is interesting, videos like these, because some things are very similar, and it's like, okay, I think most things would be, relatively easy transition, spending a lot of time down in Australia. But then some things are different, right? The language one earlier, that was different. This one too. Haggling, I feel like, is a big part of most transaction cultures here in the United States, especially Mexico too, from what I've heard. So yeah, that's totally different. It's not a bad thing that's different. It just, for me, take the fun out of it a little bit, right? I mean, it's fun kind of to negotiate and feel like you got a deal or something.
Don't haggle.
It's interesting.
And another thing that you should avoid is not saying thank you, please, or just being polite.
Always have good manners.
Australians are super, super polite. I know in big cities, when you bump into someone on the street, not many people say that, believe it or not. But yeah, here in Australia, it's very, very common. It's so ingrained, like saying, I'm sorry, or yes, please, thank you. If you're late to an appointment, for example, you call them beforehand and you say, hey, I'm sorry, I'm going to be late. It's just basic manners and politeness. Another thing that you should avoid is saying what. Like, for example, if you didn't understand someone and you didn't understand what they said, you should say pardon, or I beg your pardon, or I'm sorry. Oh, can you say that again, please? Okay, so these are the mistakes.
That one I could even work on, even at my age, because I think what might be not proper, but maybe a little more acceptable in most scenarios in the U.S. So I'm sure it's not, like, I would hope not terribly offensive in Australia. I'm sure it's not. Yeah, there is better, more proper ways to, address the issue of maybe you didn't hear them or understand them or something, and something I could work on.
Mistakes that you should avoid when you're here in Australia. I hope you find
that was fun though, And I will keep those in mind because obviously we want to go to Australia so bad. I wish I could just warp there tomorrow like this. Boom. That would be cool, right? They didn't invent that. Yeah, a lot of them were very familiar, and quite frankly, I think common sense that could go for a lot of countries, right? Having good manners and being polite and all that applies there. It's good to know. And of course, some of the ones were different, and it's good to know as well. Make slight adjustments when you would travel abroad. I think that goes for anywhere. And some of the ones that stood out to me that are different, and it's not a bad thing, it's just different, is, people do speak different languages in America all the time in front of other people. I think that's must be more common here maybe. And definitely the haggling one. That one's pretty funny because me and my wife, especially my wife, she can make some deals happen. I don't know how. But negotiating is definitely a thing here in the United States in almost any transaction. Leave your comments down below, your thoughts. Do you agree with those? Is there something you'd like to add? Disagree with me on any of these? Let's hear it down there. And of course, throw a thumbs up, a like on this video if you learned something new and just enjoyed the video. I do appreciate it. Of course, you can subscribe, join our amazing community we have here. Check that description for this original video. Check that channel out. It will be linked down there, and as well as other ways you can interact with me. My name is Ian. You're watching IWrocker. Until next time, guys, I'll catch you later.